Well, hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Unlock Show. I'm your host, Tracy Wilson. My pleasure to be here with you guys today. I think you are in for an absolute treat because if you've been wondering how to outsmart your competition, not just how to outsmart them, but how to outsmart them, then outsell them and outgrow them, then today's episode is exactly what you're going to be looking for because I've got somebody pretty cool that's going to be joining me on the show or who has joined me on the show today with a name like Stormie Andrews, with a name like Stormie, so hip. I have nothing but to expect something amazing from Stormie, which I know we're going to get. He's the founder of Yokel Local, and that's a bit of a mouthful, I have to say. I've said it a couple of times just to get it right, so I'm not kind of yodeling as I go. He's also an award-winning author. He's been authored books such as The Power of the Platform, Speakers on Success, and he's actually written that alongside the amazing Jack Canfield, Brian Tracy, and Les Brown. And in July 2020, he actually released the world's best buyer's persona system, which we're going to be talking a little bit about. And he's actually got something pretty cool to give to you guys, which is going to help you understand this more and actually understand what your buyer persona is. So hang around because you'll be getting your hands on that later, a little bit later on in the episode. That is actually a foundational step in being able to outsmart your competition. So once you understand that, you're going to be able to go away and outsmart your competition. And as you know, with every episode of the Unlock Show, we like to make sure that we give you actionable, practical steps, practical things that you could actually go away and implement straight away. He's also a licensed practitioner of NLP, love NLP. He's a top 50 Tech Visionaries. He was actually awarded this and a Forbes contributor, a HubSpot, I should say, contributor, and he is a trainer and master graduate of Rapport Leadership International. So enough said about all of his accolades, because I think his information that he shares with you today is going to speak for itself. So I want you guys to really take on board what he's talking about, because the landscape has changed significantly and we need to make sure that we're staying ahead of the curve. And if you can keep that one step ahead of your competition, then be able to implement the things that Stormie talks about in terms of being able to outsmart them and outsell them and then outgrow them, you are going to have a very, very successful business in the decades to come. So welcome to the show, Stormie. It's fantastic to have you here.
Thanks, Tracy. I am so excited to be here with you today.
I'm excited to have you. So,
Yeah.
hey, look, tell me, I was having a bit of a chat with Stormie too before the show, and his bio said he's from Nevada. So he said, yeah, I'm in Las Vegas. And I was saying, I absolutely love Las Vegas, whole lot of fun, when you go there. But, Las Vegas is really renowned for, I suppose, the casinos, and you go there for a lot of fun, and it's high energy kind of a place. You've been there for quite some time. And how did you come to be doing what you're doing now when, you're actually in a place that's full of a lot of noise, and I'm going to say even distraction?
Absolutely. Tons of distractions here in Las Vegas. And distractions are just like anything else. If you are not focused or driven or keeping your eye on the ball, those distractions, I like to call them squirrels. And, all too often when people, especially in business, when they don't have plans or systems or processes in place, these squirrels or these shiny objects tend to become the distractions. And in Vegas, you're absolutely correct, Tracy. There are tons of them. And it's interesting because these squirrels, when I'm speaking to businesses, I like to identify the squirrels that are in place. And one thing about these squirrels or the distractions is once you let them into your life, or these squirrels, once you let them into your life and become a distraction and you're chasing them around, they bring their friends to the party, which brings more distractions. And
Yeah.
that's not a good place to be.
Absolutely. Well, like, I just thought it was pertinent to kind of mention that, because in business, we can be faced with a lot of distractions, and like you say, if you allow them in, they tend to bring a load of friends to the party, and then you end up with a big mess or a problem that you have to sort out. Let's talk a little bit about, I suppose, the landscape of business right now, and why it's so important to sort of understand who your competition is, and why it's important to figure out how to outsmart them? Like what's
Absolutely.
changed, and why is this so important in this day and age?
Well, one of the reasons it's important is because the sheer amount of noise that's out there. We're bombarded with marketing messaging,
Mm,
advertising messaging. We're just bombarded with information. And, normally what happens is when organizations approach me, they'll start the conversation something to the tune of wanting to outgrow and outsell their competitors. That's
mm,
usually where it goes. And it's one route an organization can take if they want to outsell and outgrow their competitors is to outspend them. You can spend a lot of money, put a lot of time, energy, and effort into the, that particular goal, and you may or may not get there. But that's why the Outsmart methodology is so awesome, and it's how can we outsmart the competitors? Because if we're thinking about outsmarting the competitors, putting our best foot forward and willing to do what they're not willing to do in regards to understanding your customer, understanding the customers in your marketplace to a level that they've never even dreamed of. And when you're able to do that as a business or as an organization, it allows you to uh, have this intimacy with your customers and strangers because you have an empathetic message that tends to resonate and it tends to connect because your messaging, your deliverables, your customer service, everything you do is customer centric and it's focused on their pain
mhm.
points, their issues, and their struggles. And how are you going to do that if you haven't spent the time, energy, and effort involved identifying their pain points, their struggles, their issues? It's not about you. It's not about your business. It's about your customers. And if you can improve their experience based on the knowledge that you gain as it pertains to your ideal prospects, you're going to outsmart the competitors and more people are going to become endeared to you and your brand. You'll end up with more referrals, happier customers, more testimonials, greater awareness in the marketplace, and you will win.
It reminds me of that old saying, it's not what you know, but it's who you know. and
Sure.
and this is still very relevant in this arena, right? Because the more we can, like you say, the more we can know, the more intimately we can know and understand our prospect or our potential customer, then the more likely it is that you're going to be able to create stories, products, services, and things that are going to serve their purpose well. So I just remember, remember that from way back. Not what you know, it's who you know. And in this case, really taking the time to understand who our customer is at the outset. When you're thinking through this, and I know that a lot of businesses kind of start out and they have a product or a service because we've dreamt something up and we've thought, hey, it starts off as being, this is a good idea. How many times do you tend to see, businesses that maybe have gone down this path that have had some level of success, but have actually omitted to take the time to really understand who their audience is? Like, how frequently does that happen?
Oh, Tracy, it happens all the time.
Mm,
Unfortunately, with most organizations, they invent something or they develop something. They come up with a new product to the marketplace, which very well can be, very well may be the best thing since sliced bread. That's their belief system. And because their belief system is so strong as it pertains to the goods, the services, the products they're bringing to the market, they have this misguided belief system. And it's a belief system that everyone else has the exact same feelings and emotions towards and understanding
mm,
towards the goods and services that they bring to the marketplace. So they tend to want to skip this very, very important step. They're like, why do I
mm.
need? They're not thinking of it consciously, but based on their actions, it's more of why do I need to get to know who my customers are? I have the greatest thing ever. See it, and they hold it up, and they're looking for the clouds to part and everything to happen miraculously, and it doesn't happen that way. It's not always the best products that make it within the marketplace. The Usually it's the company that decides to outspend their competitors so this way they can spend lots of money on branding and advertising so people get to know what their product offerings are. But the ones that do it right are the ones that say, you know what, we've invented something, or we have a product or service we want to bring to the market, and we've gotten together with our team and we've identified a market gap. And within that gap, we can create messaging that's so organic and so original, and that it will appeal to someone, not everyone, but it will appeal to someone unlike anything else in the marketplace. Well, what if we figure out their pain points, their struggles, and how our product alleviates their pain points and their struggles? And what if we can put our positioning factors in a way that positions us differently than everything else in the marketplace? And what if we can create messaging that's designed to create more trust, and gives us more authority? And uh, uh, it it's those organizations that have the opportunity of doing it right, because they just spent the time and they realize that they may have a great product, but they truly understand that everyone else may not have the same feeling and emotion. So understanding that that needs to be built and developed. It sounds simple enough, but very few times do organizations take the time, energy, and effort required to do it.
Well, that's part of, I suppose, the next question that I have is when you're doing this, because, like you say, it sounds simple enough. It sounds like you could just sit down and do this. Yet many businesses don't, and often it ends up it's in the too hard basket because I'm just not sure how to go about doing that. What are some simple things that, or maybe questions that people could be asking themselves to really start to dig deep on understanding who their potential customer is and how they can service them to the highest level?
So, one of the things you can do, one of the first exercises that I recommend organizations do, and when they consult with me that we do together, is identify their positioning factors. What makes them different than the other players in the marketplace? Are their deliverables, or is it what they're bringing to the market? Is it more of a so what, me too? Are they bringing nothing uh, different than the competitors? Or is there something within the positioning factors that really allows the organization to find a market gap and deliver a message that's unlike anyone else? So that's one of the first exercises. Let's figure out what sets you apart from your competitors. Very important. And when I go through that exercise with organizations and we sit in a conference room together and I will ask that question, what makes you different? What sets you apart? I tend to get answers like, well, you know what? We have great customer service, better than anyone else on the planet. And my question would be, well, do your competitors advertise and promote the fact that they have very poor customer service? No, they're going to say the exact same thing. It's a so what,
Mm-hmm.
me too statement. You're in business. You're supposed to have great customer service. So let's eliminate the generic statements that anyone and everyone else can say in the marketplace. So with that information of having your positioning factors, it allows us to look in the market to see if we can use those positioning factors that you and your team have come up with, and find if there is a market gap. Do one of your positioning factors position you in a way that not one of your other competitors are positioning themselves? And usually that can happen if you spend the time with the exercise. But then from there, that's really what led into the book, The World's Best Buyer Persona System, where I've come up with a series of questions that you would ask to identify. The first step is, let's identify who your ideal customer is, not just the demographics, because demographics don't make decisions, people do. And
Mm-hmm.
once we identify who those people are, well, let's start to identify their triggering events. Why would they be in the market for your goods and services now? What would have had to have happened within their life, whether it's in the B2C space or the B2B space? What would have had to have happened in order for them to be in the market for your goods and services now? Once we have that answer, what has happened before then when they became aware, or when they were considering options or solutions for the pain point? What happened then? And when they became aware of their issue, what happened then? So we want to work our way backwards from the time they make a decision or when they're at the decision stage. What if you can start identifying what is going through their mind when they're considering various alternatives and solutions? What if you can figure out the questions that they're asking when they're in the awareness stage? Those are very powerful questions. And if you understand those questions, it allows you to create content that is in alignment with the journey that your ideal customers are on. And it doesn't stop there with triggering events. We, if Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a tool
Mm-hmm.
that we use within the book, where we can look at the need that needs to be met as it pertains to your ideal prospect. And if you realize your prospect has a need that relates to safety, well, then we should have messaging that's in alignment to safety versus love and belonging or physiological. And if you're not familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you can look it up on the internet. I go over it in the book, but it's a very, very powerful tool that helps you understand how people are motivated. And we go through a series of exercises within the book. And as you go through the exercises and you're identifying the pain points, the struggles, the triggering events, your positioning factors, it allows you to create a message and a narrative that is designed to help strangers get to know you a little bit faster and a little bit better. It helps strangers get the opportunity to like you and then ultimately trust you. And when they trust you before they even met you, that's magical. You end up in a scenario where you're creating customers from scratch before your competitors even know that they exist, because they've created a relationship with you because you've been a great steward helping them through their journey, not even knowing it, strict only because you've done a little extra work that your competitors weren't willing to do.
Well, I mean, in that scenario, you then understanding the cycle or the journey that prospect has been on enables you, like you say, to create the narrative that actually speaks directly to the moment that they are in, or the experience that they are going through at that time, so they can easily identify they're actually speaking to me. That product is for me because that is what I'm going through right now. The other thing I wanted to say, you mentioned the word trust. And, in this day and age, with everything that's gone on over the past, 2 to 3 years, trust has been something that we have, we always held that in really high regard. Like, trust was like way up there. But over the last few years, that trust has tended to be eroded. So people are a lot more skeptical, a lot more wary of things. How does one how does a business, and I know some of the things that you've spoken about are extremely important and definitely help with this, but what are some of the tips that people can do to ensure that they maintain that high level of trust and that their audiences maintain that level of trust with them in the midst of everything that's gone on, and the trust sort of being one of those things that has been eroded from sometimes from the top, the highest levels in our society.
Tracy, it's super simple, and it comes down to three words, and those three words are help, not sell.
Mm,
So say that again. I'll say it one more
yeah.
time. Help, not sell. If we think about your ideal customer, when you spend the time learning their journey, learning their pain points, and you're focused on selling, well, you're a schmuck, in that scenario. Because if you understand their pain points and issues and you go to sell someone when you understand, that's not the thing to do. But if you can help them along the journey, that's how you gain trust. And when they're ready for your goods and services, if you're truly there to help them and you're helping them unlike any other, they'll buy from you, and they'll buy from you when you're ready. And then price isn't even the issue.
Mm,
The right people, they will appreciate the value that you brought to them, that you bring to the market, and they'll buy from you. And not only that, when you do this right and you do it the right way, they'll tell their friends, their families, their colleagues, they'll tell others about you. They'll leave reviews. They elevate themselves through the customer ladder. And I'm going to dive on the customer ladder because this is where a very, very important part. And the concept of the customer ladder, using the definitions that I use when I'm helping others go through the process, is, let's imagine the first time someone does business with you. They buy your goods and services once. Let's call them a customer.
Mm.
even if they're not called a customer in your industry. For the sake of this argument, let's call them a customer. Well, then the next rung on that customer ladder would be a client. And the definition of a client for this example is someone that if they needed your services, again, you're top of mind. There's no guarantee they're going to do business with you, but you are top of mind. And that's a great position to be in. Versus a customer, if they needed your goods and service again, they're back to looking for the various providers, oftentimes who has the lowest price. So no one wants to be in a price war, where a client appreciates the value you brought to the table. So then the next rung on the ladder from the client is an advocate. And an advocate is someone, not only are you top of mind, but they're the type of person that really appreciate your goods and services, and they're more likely to leave a review, a testimonial. And if a friend, family, or colleague member asks them for a solution provider that you happen to be that particular provider, they will recommend and refer you because they are confident in regards to your deliverables. But then above an advocate is a raving fan. And a raving fan, that is the person that can't imagine anyone on the planet, including themselves, not doing business with you. They're the people that tell everyone you need to do business with this particular person. So, for instance, to give you an example, I'm a raving fan of Tesla automobiles. I bought a Tesla. I was a Lexus guy, then I bought a Tesla. And now I tell everyone, you've got to drive one of these cars. You got to get in one of them. Let me come over to your house and I'll take you for a ride. I'm a raving fan. I don't know how many cars I'm responsible for selling, but I can absolutely say with certainty I'm personally responsible for over a dozen cars being sold, strictly from taking friends and family to a test ride. And I'm not even on the payroll, right? How
Yeah.
cool would it be if you had an army of people that are raving fans? And it's a simple process. Let's think about, if you were to think about everyone in your database, all of your customers, and you start thinking of who are your customers, your clients, your advocates, and your raving fans, and then ask yourself, what systems and processes and added value can you bring to the market to elevate more of your customers to becoming clients, more clients to becoming advocates, more advocates to becoming raving fans? If you can just increase your number of advocates and raving fans, your business will grow. I've had businesses that have seen 2, 3, 400% growth within their business strictly by putting a system and a process in place strategically designed to improve the ratio of customers moving up the ladder, and just putting a system and process in place.
That makes a lot of sense, and hence the reason that I think when I was reading some detail about your book, and you talk about that we need to be looking at every customer as being like a digital asset, so to speak, in terms of everyone, if you can ascend them up that ladder and you can get them to the point like you are with Tesla as a raving fan, then all of a sudden you have just multiplied your sales force without having to spend a dime or do anything extra, simply by leading with helping, not selling, and creating the sorts of products and services that really do stand you apart from your competition and serve the audience that you're trying to serve at the highest possible level. So absolutely, I love that. I love that philosophy, that help, not sell. I think that's really, a really great philosophy and way to look at things. And if we can continue to do that, lead with value, helping people, what a better world this place would be, right?
Absolutely.
So what are some of the in terms of, there's a lot of marketing, right? There's a lot of marketing information out there. What do you see some of the some businesses, like the biggest challenges or things that mistakes that most businesses make when it comes to marketing?
I'm going to break it into 3 parts when it comes to marketing. And I want you to think of these 3 parts are 3 pieces to a puzzle. And when you think of these 3 pieces, if you want your marketing to be successful, you have to have all 3 pieces to the puzzle. If you're missing one, and I can tell you, Tracy, that most businesses are missing one of these, and it's just one puzzle piece, that it's preventing them from having the success that they should have. So let's talk about the three puzzle pieces, and then let me identify what a business looks like when it's missing any one of the three. Fair enough? Is that okay?
Let's
Then
do it.
that's what we'll do. So the three puzzle pieces, and if you're listening to this, write these down. The first puzzle piece is a documented journey. You have to have a documented journey. So what's a documented journey? Just think of it as your marketing strategy. What are you going to do? How are you going to do it? And you need to document it on a sheet of paper. That's really, really important. This way you can share that documented journey with others, and it acts as your roadmap. So you have to have a documented journey, first piece of the puzzle. And the second piece of the puzzle is you have to identify what success looks like. You have to identify your KPIs. What does a win look like? What does a loss look like? Oftentimes I see businesses, they may have a documented journey, but they haven't identified what wins and losses look like. So they're staying busy. They don't know if they're winning and losing. So you have to identify what your KPIs are, what your success looks like. That's the second piece of the puzzle. So what do we have so far? Documented journey, and then we have your KPIs. The third piece that you need to have are your tools and tactics. What tools and tactics do you need to execute the documented journey and to achieve your KPIs? So those are the three pieces of the puzzle. Now, Tracy, let's, and in the audience, what happens if you're missing one of the three? And let's see if you can identify if your business falls into one of the three. Let's say if your business has a documented journey, and you have, let me just think. Let's say if you have you have your documented journey, and then you have your tools, and you have your tools and tactics, but you don't have your, you don't have a definition of, you don't have your KPIs. In that type of scenario, I like to think of businesses like that are more stuck in the mud, right? They know where they want to go. They know how they want to get, where they want to get to, but they're just stuck in the mud. It's not moving. And so and if you're stuck in the mud, there's a good indication of what you're missing. And let's say if you have your tools and tactics, you have your KPIs, and and you're missing your documented journey. Scenarios like that, I consider businesses more of a one-hit wonder, or a business that's wearing a paper crown, because sometimes they get lucky and they may have had a campaign that has had success and they believe they're doing everything right, but they may have gotten lucky, or they never have gotten lucky. So I like to call them one-hit wonders, because they haven't achieved their level of success. And then if you're missing the you know what, I think I got so excited when I was talking about these, I mixed them up a little bit, because if you're missing the documented journey, what happens there is that's when you introduce the squirrels into the equation. Yeah. So when you don't have the documented journey, what happens is you're like, ooh, there's another distraction. There's another distraction. There's another distraction. So you have to have all three of those. And if you're missing any one of the three, it inhibits your ability of having success. And I believe that's one of the biggest problems with most businesses. So now what happens is, let's say if you have all three, what do you do next? Well, then, in order to have an effective documented strategy, in order to know what tools and tactics you should be using, and in order to have proper KPIs, I think it's important to understand more about your customer. That's where the world's best buyer persona comes in. And I put the world's best buyer persona, I like to think of it as a hub to your marketing wheel, your marketing and success wheel. And that's another concept, if you're okay with it, I like to introduce.
Please do.
Because the marketing success wheel is a different way of looking at your marketing. All too often when I meet with organizations, they feel that that marketing and advertising is this 800-pound gorilla, because they're looking at it in its entirety. And if you look at it in its entirety, it can be very, very intimidating, even for the most seasoned marketers, not knowing what to do next, what shouldn't I do, instead of just throwing money at everything. So if you have your pen and paper ready, you write these items down. And the first thing I'd have you do is, on a piece of paper, draw a circle. And when you draw a circle, then you want to draw a line in the middle of the circle. Let's cut it in half. And then once you draw the vertical line, draw a horizontal line. Now you've cut the the wheel in fourths, and then you're going to put 2 more diagonal lines, and now you have the wheel broken into 8 pieces. And by the way, I'm going to give you free access to the marketing wheel. So if you didn't write it down, no worries. I'm going to give you a link where you can download the marketing wheel and do this exercise.
Mm-hmm. Should look a little like that, people.
It should look, it looks absolutely, that's perfect. So my instructions worked. And if we think about the marketing wheel, it's a great tool to help you identify the areas of strengths, the areas of weakness, what you should be focused on and shouldn't be focused on. So in the first area of the marketing wheel, that would be in the area of roughly the 10 to 11 o'clock position. I would write inside of their awareness. So let's look at your marketing from a standpoint of awareness. And then from the center of the wheel to the outside, I would have you write letters. At the very top of the marketing wheel where your tire would be, you'd put an A there. And and down towards the center, you'd put an F. And then you would, between that A and F, you would put your D, C, and B. You're going to have the ability of grading yourself. So if we were to think about your business in terms of awareness, and if you were to grade yourself on a scale of A, B, C, D, or F, another way to think about it is a scale of 1 to 5. If I was a stranger looking for your brand, your goods and services, how aware would a stranger be of your brand once they're in the market for your goods and services? How would you rate yourself? If you said, you know what, our SEO's great, or we have lots of TV commercials, or we're doing a great job with billboards, or whatever your strategy happens to be, or just everyone in the market knows who we are, we're definitely an A. And if you say, you know what, I don't think a stranger has ever found us. All of our business comes from the people who, referrals. We're horrible in awareness. In that case, you'd give yourself an F, and then anything in between. And when I give you access to the exercise, I will walk you through it. By the way, there are videos associated with the free exercise. So that was just an example of looking at one of the 8 areas that you would grade yourself in. But then the next area is engagement. What are you doing to get people to engage with your brand? Is it working or not? And then from engagement, the next area in the marketing world would be lead generation. You'd rate yourself there on from an A to an F scale. And then from lead generation, then there's the next portion of the marketing wheel would be conversion optimization. Of the leads you're getting, are they converting into customers? How's that working out for you? And then there's an element which is called wow. I will spend a second on wow because this is a tremendous opportunity. What processes and systems do you have in place that are designed to wow your customers immediately after they come on board to do business with you? You see, all too often, businesses think that a win is getting a new customer. Well, what if you were to think a win is not just getting a new customer, but wowing them, reducing the tension, the fear, the stress of them choosing a new vendor? And how can you wow them at the time of purchase and just do little extras that no one else in your industry is doing? It's going through an exercise of being able to wow your customers is very, very powerful and impactful. And then from the wow, it goes to the customer ladder. What's your process of taking customers to clients, clients to advocates, advocates to raving fans? The next area of the marketing wheel would be reviews and testimonials. And then the final section of the marketing wheel would be referrals. What's happening there? Are you getting them or not? So now, if we were to think of that wheel, the center of that wheel is your hub, and the hub is the world's best buyer persona system. You see, the more intimate knowledge you have with your customers, the greater you can impact any of those 8 areas. And now what it comes down to, what's your documented journey for any of the 8 areas? What tools and tactics are you going to put in place for any of the 8 areas of the marketing wheel? And then what does a win look like? What is your definition of success? What's a KPI? If you've given yourself a grade of a C, all you need to do is figure out a documented journey of what your strategy would be to get to a B. And then what tools and tactics would you use to get to a B? And then what does a B look like? You have to identify it. You do that across each of the 8 areas. You focus on one at a time, and you will win at this thing called marketing. Did that make
I
sense,
love
or did
it.
I just go on a tangent, Tracy?
No,
Please tell me.
absolutely. It made sense. And I think one of the things that we'll make sure we do actually right now is because, as I'm sure everybody's written that down and they got their little, got their pen and paper out and drew the circle, but you're probably, thinking, oh, how do I put all of my stuff onto this wheel? So let's make this easy for you. The place that you need to go so that you get instant access to the marketing wheel that Stormie is providing is heading on over to, let me
Uh,
just read this. Offers. Is that
oh
correct?
no, I've
But
made it easier. You can go to
oh,
Outsmart
easier. All
Tools,
right.
outsmarttools.com,
Rightio. Here we go. So let me just put this on here. Outsmarttools.com.
tools.com. I made it
Here
super
we go,
easy.
guys. Awesome. Well, let me just pop that on the bottom of the screen so that if I got that correct, outsmarttools.com.
Anything we talk about today, whether it's a link to buy the book, free worksheets, workbooks, they're all there on outsmarttools.com. It's just a simple page with various links to take you wherever you want to go.
Beautiful. Well, there you go, guys. So to get instant access to the book and well, to be able to purchase the book, of course, but also instant access to the marketing wheel, head on over to outsmarttools.com. Do this process. And what I would recommend you do, if you want to continue this conversation with Stormie, also go to Success Secrets for Business, Family, and Life on Facebook. You'll find this recording will be inside of there, and you'll be able to comment underneath the recording and ask any questions about that. And of course, you'll also be able to connect with him through Outsmart Tools, I'm sure. So make a point of reaching out to Stormie and asking more questions about how this can apply to your business. But I think I've actually gone and I've had a look at it. There's very simple videos that Stormie has recorded, so you can follow along with his instructions. And by the time you've finished, you get a couple of reports. One that he's going to send you, and then another one that you'll get from the world's best buy persona. If I got that right, so you're going to get
Right,
that
absolutely.
couple of different emails, right? So they are in depth, and I would recommend that you do them. Why, when we're thinking about this, Stormie, like when you put all of this together, and people are going through it, how do they determine which area they should be working on first? Does it matter? Do they just pick one, or is there actually a methodology in understanding which area they should focus on first to give them the biggest bang for their buck?
Normally, what I recommend is there's usually an area that your business has already started. As a matter of fact, usually there's an area that you've already completed 80% of what needed to be done, but then the squirrels came along and distracted you. And I'm a
Mm.
huge believer in getting the quick and easy wins out of the way first. So when you look at your marketing wheel, you may, and what I can tell you, I can almost guarantee it because it happens every time. Someone builds their marketing wheel and they're like, oh my gosh, you know what? I started down that path. I didn't complete it. It will not take much energy, effort, and resources for me to take our C to a B or to take it to the next level because I've already started the process. So what I recommend once you complete your marketing wheel, preferably you've also completed your world's best buyer persona. You'll make better decisions by completing the world's best buyer persona complement with your marketing wheel. And I recommend looking at your marketing wheel, taking action on whatever item there is that you can get the quickest win. And it's usually something that you've already started in-house, and go for it. Knock it out, win. It feels good when you get the win. It becomes a psychological win for you, and it makes it that much easier for the next. That's what I recommend.
Beautiful. So tell us more about, some of the philosophies that are inside of the book. So we've talked about, really understanding our customer, and we've talked about the marketing system. What other pertinent things that are inside of the book that you think are really important for people to know and understand, so that they are able to make some really good decisions about, where to spend their marketing dollars, where to not just spend their money, but where to spend their time and effort?
Absolutely. And what happens, when you anyone who, if you use the world's best buyer persona system, besides the book, you have free access to this worksheet. And inside this worksheet, this workbook, it's not even a worksheet, workbook, are several exercises that are designed to help you create your world's best buyer persona system. But here's one of the extraordinary benefits of creating and using a system like this. It's a phenomenal tool for transference of knowledge. Imagine this for just a second. You are the person that if you're the CEO or the creator of a business or an entrepreneur, you're the person that created your business. You know more about your business than anyone else, or more about your industry. You're the expert. And a big mistake that happens is, as the expert, you hire someone to do your social media or to do your website or to do your sales and marketing, and the expectation is that they know as much as you do, based on your actions. You hire them with
Mm,
the understanding they don't know as much as you do, but based on your actions, because you're busy, the expectation is they're going to be successful at their job because that's what they're supposed to do. They are an expert. Unfortunately, there hasn't been an adequate transference of knowledge. So, what the world's best buyer persona system does is, you, as the business owner or the business leader, going through the exercise, you get to document lots of your knowledge as it pertains to your ideal customer. And then what happens is the worksheet gives you the ability. It has an ad libs component to help you create a narrative and a story. You see, as humans, we learn by storytelling. That's the way it's been
mm,
since the days of cavemen, right? They started telling
mhm,
stories, and that's how we learn and comprehend. So imagine this for just a moment within your organization. Let's say if you were to spend a little bit of time creating ideal personas, identifying who your ideal customers and prospects are, and now you're able to create these incredible stories that share their journey, their pain points, their struggles, their desires, and you're able to use those documents, and you share the documents with your customer service team. Do you think they're going to have more empathy as it pertains to your customers? Absolutely. And if they have more empathy, do you think you'll have better customer service and satisfaction? Absolutely. And if you were to share the document with your sales team, do you think they're going to have a better understanding of your customers and their pain points and be more effective at their sales process? Absolutely. Now, let's say if you have a marketing team, whether it's in-house or you're using an agency, and maybe you're running TV commercials or radio commercials, you're able to share this document with anyone and everyone associated with your organization that's customer facing, and you're giving them the transference of knowledge so they can understand your customers as well as you do and have far superior deliverables, and everyone's working synergistically without you having to have a
mm.
million meetings, because everyone's working off the same playbook. They're working off the same game plan. Imagine this for just a moment. Any professional organization, if we were to use a football, American football or soccer, uh, and imagine if everyone on the team, you had a different playbook and a different, and they're expecting to work together. It doesn't work that way. Being able to share that playbook and that understanding and the synergy that comes from that with your team is incredible. And it's just an invaluable tool that you can implement. Just that synergistic component could take your business to new heights. Even if your world's best buyer persona was marginal, at least you were able to give a transference of knowledge and gain some synergy from it. Did I answer the question, Tracy, with
Absolutely.
that
And I think
long-winded
that
answer?
is No, that's really important, because I think the benefit of, taking the time to do this, like you say, as the business owner, we get all excited, we're enthusiastic about what it is that we've created, but not taking the time to transfer that. The person that's coming in, they're enthusiastic about what they know and what they do. And somehow you've got to be able to come together synergistically, transfer that knowledge so that you are all on the same page, playing from the same playbook, and that then enables you to make any move you want, whether it's, hey, I'm actually going to employ somebody, or this time around I'm going to use an agency. I mean, I know, because I've run an agency for many years, so to have a client show up with that kind of, or that level of detail and understanding of their client, their customer, their customer journey, how they differentiate themselves in the market. I mean, just it would be phenomenal to have somebody be able to show up with that, because as an agency owner, you're then able to make much more informed decisions about and provide advice to that customer from a level and a point of view of knowing, not just kind of guessing and trying to understand and hoping that that today they transfer the knowledge in the same way that they that they had 3 or 4 years ago when they were enthusiastic about their business. Because emotions tend to it's one of those squirrels, right? They tend to step in, things happen in the day, and all of a sudden the way you felt about your business 3 years ago when you started out, you feel a lot different about it today. So I think the sooner you can sit down and take the time to build your customer persona, build your marketing system, take on board these things and actually create that plan, the better off you're going to be. Because what better time to do it than when you're enthusiastic about the whole thing and you understand it and it's fresh in your mind and you haven't allowed squirrels in.
Absolutely. You nailed it. And that was the reason for this. Being an agency owner myself, Tracy, I have so much empathy for you because we were dealing with the same thing. When clients approached us, regardless of their industry, their expectation was, you're the expert, you should be able to do this. And we made the mistake of charging ahead with a lot of busy work, of just doing the best that we could do. And as I started building the world's best buyer persona system and we started to implement it and we were able to get that transference of knowledge, our deliverables were far superior. And that's why I created the system. So this way, other agencies and other marketers, whether you're an agency using this system to grab the information from your prospective clients, or you're the marketer within an organization, being able to sit with the owner of the company or executives and take them through a process in regards to transference of knowledge. What it does is, from the executive or the business owner standpoint, it lets them know that they have the right person. So now in May's Laws of Hiring Needs, we've met safety, because when they hired you, they wanted a safe decision, like this person's safe because no one's taken me through this. It also lets them know, if they've done this marketing stuff before, maybe this is the reason why it didn't work. And it wasn't necessarily that the other person was bad. It was just that there was no transference of knowledge. Now we have a process of doing that. Now we're able to put systems and processes and KPIs. We're able to get everyone on the same page, and it makes for far more efficiency.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get a much better result all around. And then when you overlay like that, the documented journey, the KPIs, and then utilizing those tools and tactics. And if you are using an agency, well, it makes it a lot easier for them to be able to deploy the right tools and tactics because they have the other information at their fingertips. So I think that's extremely important. Just before we do wrap up today, I know there's been some significant change over the last couple of years with COVID and what have you, and the way that businesses are shifting and pivoting and trying to find new ways of being able to market themselves. Why is it so important now? I'm going to say kind of post-COVID, that we actually start to modify our marketing message. Like, what's actually taken place that you've seen that requires a modification of messaging?
The world has changed, and the world is comprised of people. The people have changed, their motivations, their their belief systems, their action beliefs, their inaction beliefs. What, prior to COVID, what motivated your customer to take action, there's a strong possibility that their motivations have entirely, have shifted. It's changed. And if you have the same old messaging geared towards the person from 2019, even if it was a very, very small shift, not understanding that shift over a period of time, if I were to shoot an arrow at a tree and I am able to get a bullseye, and if I'm able to move the arrow just over 2 or 3 degrees, the further the tree is away from me, the further the arrow misses the mark. So let's say if you may be saying to yourself, you know what, Stormie, my customers haven't shifted or they haven't changed much. Okay, Well, because you threw the word much in
Mhm.
there, maybe they've only shifted 1 to 2 degrees. Use a tool like this to find out where that shift has taken place in regards to the 1 to 2 degrees. So this way you're realigning your message to where they're at. Having the expectation that they realign themselves to where you're at is a huge mistake. So you use a tool like this to realign because the world has changed, the world has shifted, and it would be irresponsible of you not to even consider that and look at how you can change your deliverables, your messaging based on the realities of the world today.
Mm. Absolutely. Which then brings me to the next thing, which is, this is an ongoing process, right? It's not a
It is.
do it once, set it and forget it, because the one thing that we know for sure is that there is constant change. And so understanding, are there external influences that have actually changed your buyers' behaviors, their thought patterns, their beliefs, all of these things? Are there external things that are actually um, you know causing change there? So just doing this on, and I would say, I mean, I don't know if you've got a specific time frame that you would recommend people just go back and readdress, and even just adjust or review their plans. On how frequently do you require them to, or recommend that they do that?
Well, there's no requirement, but there are recommendations. And remember, when you complete the world's best buyer persona, the cool thing is you're putting it in a story format. You usually end up with a
Mm.
Google document that's anywhere from uh, 4 to 6, 3 to 6 pages. And what if once a quarter you pull that document out on your various personas and you read it, and then you ask yourself, is this still in alignment with their ideal clients? And, and a quarter will come around where you will want to change the buyer persona based on new information that you have. It always happens. When I dive in and read the buyer personas, I'm like, you know what? There has been the story has changed. I don't need to go build a new buyer persona. I just need to change the story. So I'm changing a few paragraphs or sentences within the document. And now that becomes my new document. When I read it again the next quarter, I may change a few other elements based on the new dynamics in the world. And when you stay on top of it in that regard, it's a pretty easy process. It allows you to review and if you've lost touch with the pain points and the struggles, if you lost touch with the empathetic elements of your customer, it brings you right back in place.
Yeah, I love that. Well, look, I want to make sure that we remind everybody where they can go to get, because I think this is an amazing tool that, Stormie is making available to everybody today. So I want to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to head on over and grab a copy of it to
Yeah,
outsmarttools.com. So head on over there, and then you'll be able to sort of, learn a little bit more. Stormie's going to transfer his knowledge of
absolutely.
this process with you. He'll walk you through step by step of how to use the marketing wheel. And then if you so wish to, I'm sure that there is other opportunities for you to be able to get your hands on the book and some of the other amazing tools and advice that he provides to clients. If you decided that you wanted to work with him or his team, I'm sure over at outsmarttools.com you'll find out how to do that. Before we
What I
round out today, Stormie, is there anything else, like if there were one piece of advice that maybe you could have even given yourself as a business owner? Like, think back, I'm talking, let's take you back to your teenage years. What piece of advice would you have given yourself about business and life?
Wow. If we go back to my teenage years, I would have
Hmm.
given myself the advice that I didn't know anything. You see, as a teenager and as a youngster, probably until my 30s or maybe mid to late 20s, I thought I knew everything. And the problem with that was I had a low teachability index. Because I knew everything, there was nothing for me to learn. So once I realized that I knew nothing, it was very, very eye opening because the more books I read, the more time I spend learning, the more I realize I know nothing, and I
Yeah.
enjoy it because the less that I know, the greater the thirst is for that knowledge, and I enjoy it. So, except that you know nothing, this you can go out and grab it, and whether it's the world's best buyer persona system or anything else. become a consummate reader or listen to books on Audible, but just grab information. There's an incredible amount of knowledge of the people that have walked this planet before us that have, we're so fortunate that some of them have taken their knowledge and they put that knowledge to pen and paper so it's there for you. And you don't need to invent and reinvent the wheel. Someone's probably put it on a pen and paper, and I would seek out that knowledge and apply it.
I love that. And you're right, having that thirst for knowledge is super important. And like the older we get, the more you realize you don't know. You think you thought you knew a lot until you realize you don't know much at all. And then then that thirst for information, knowledge, but not just that, then being able to actually take that knowledge and implement it in some way, shape, or form. And that's what the Unlock show's about, guys. So today we've gone through some amazing stuff. Stormie has really brought to the table some opportunities for you to take control of your business and be able to outsmart and outplay your competitors. And I want you to make sure that you take those on board and you actually do something with it by heading over to outsmarttools.com. I'm going to see you guys again. As you know, we have the Unlock show twice a week. So Wednesdays and Fridays, 10 a.m. Brisbane time. I'm going to be back with some more actionable information for you guys on Friday with another episode of the Unlock show. But I want to say thank you so much for Stormie for being a fantastic guest. I'm looking forward to reading the book and going through the entire process. And I may even just come back and give you guys a bit of a review on one of the shows and let you know how we went, and potentially even have Stormie back at some other time and we can talk a little bit more about the findings. What does he actually see? Maybe I'll be a bit of a guinea pig and allow him to to put me on the spot and ask some pointed questions. But anyway, thanks so much for being here today. It's been fantastic having you as a guest. Love our listeners that tune in every single week, and I hope that they continue to do so. We appreciate you guys. And like we always say, you want to make sure that you go and live your life unlocked, because there's just no other way. Don't know if you've got anything else you want to sort of wrap up today's show with, Stormie, but it's been wonderful having you here.
Absolutely. I had a blast. And I don't think I mentioned, but on Outsmart Tools, if you want to get a copy of the book, there's a link there for the book or the Audible and the worksheets. Everything's there. And I had a blast with you.
Well, thank you so much, and take care. All right, guys, take care, and I'll see you guys again on Friday, 10 a.m. Brisbane time. Bye for now.